corners for Hinch. Gonna be very close. Is it enough? Hinchcliffe or Newgarden for the 500 pole. It's Hinchcliffe.
That is incredible.
It was May 22nd in 2016. Canadian IndyCar driver and absolute fan favorite James Hinchcliffe just took pole position for the 100th edition of the Indianapolis 500. A pole position that was extra special that year. But it wasn't the pole itself that was so remarkable. It was the inspiring story leading up to it. 1 year earlier, James nearly lost his life at the exact same place during a crash he suffered in practice. This is the story about a man that showcased massive mental strength and willpower to turn an almost fatal accident into one of the most inspiring comebacks in the history of IndyCar. If you have been watching F1 TV recently, you probably came across James Hinchcliffe, aka the mayor of Hinchtown, a city and title that do not really exist, but he once came up with to promote his website, hinchtown.com. Seriously, this man was a marketing genius in his junior racing days. In case you didn't know, he was probably also the first racing driver to ever vlog behind the scenes videos on YouTube. In, wait for it, 2007. What a legend. Anyway, born in 1986 in North York, Canada, James started karting at the age of 10 and worked his way up through the junior categories, eventually landing himself an Indy light seat in 2009. He finished his first season in 4th and just slightly missed out on the title in his second season, but this was enough to get him promoted to IndyCar in 2011. Over the years, his career kept growing momentum with multiple wins, and his easygoing and funny personality quickly turned him into a fan favorite on and off track. But things were about to change badly in 2015. During practice for the Indy 500, his car's right front suspension failed into turn 3, sending him straight into the barrier at over 220 miles per hour. The crash into the wall itself was violent already, recording an impact of 126 Gs. But when IndyCar's safety team arrived at the crash site just seconds later, they realized the situation was way more severe. James was stuck in his cockpit and he was bleeding heavily. The crash caused the suspension piece to penetrate first his cockpit and then his left leg and artery like a bullet. The medical team had to remove the suspension piece from his body on site to get him out of the car, which further increased the bleeding. James was rushed to the next hospital. He kept receiving massive blood transfusions by the medical team to keep him somehow stable, but he later revealed that they lost his pulse on the elevator to the trauma unit. Luckily, once in a trauma unit, the doctors quickly identified the damaged blood vessel to stop his heavy bleeding and save his life. When he woke up from surgery, still on breathing support, his fellow racing colleague Marco Andretti was sitting in his room. He later explained that James needed a piece of paper to write down questions as he had lost all memory of the crash. His first question was, "What happened?" And the second one was, "When can I drive again?" There was never even a small thought of him to not race again. It was clear from the start that he would come back. He later admitted that losing his memory was actually a blessing, since he couldn't associate the pain and injuries to a race car or track. So, through sheer determination to come back, he began the process of rehab. Day by day and training session by training session he got stronger again. The doctor said he wouldn't be back in a car for 7 months, but he actually was back in an IndyCar just 4 months later. Fast forward to May 2016. Just 1 year after his life-threatening crash, Hinchcliffe returned to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to, as he said, write some new stories. The Aero-Schmidt-Peterson cars have been fast all month, and so has been James. At Indy, qualifying is not about the fastest single lap time, but consists of 4 time laps where the average time and top speed is recorded as the official qualifying time for the car. So, it was time for the Fast 6, the final shootout section determining pole position for the race. James was the last car to start the 4-lap run. At that stage, Joseph Newgarden was standing on pole position with an average of 230.7 miles per hour, which is already a pretty fast run. All eyes were on Hinchcliffe as he started his final quali run. He had to absolutely nail every inch of those laps. Even the slightest corrections can either cost you momentum or send you straight into the wall. But James was on a mission and flying around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I keep going back to passion. You can only get through all of that with an enormous amount of passion.
Let's see what lap 3 looks like as he takes the white flag. 1 lap to go. 2 more corners for Hinch. Is it enough? Hinchcliffe or Newgarden for the 500 pole. It's Hinchcliffe.
The Defying all odds, Hinchcliffe clinched pole position, outpacing Joseph Newgarden by mere 0.0407 seconds. What a story. Just a year earlier, he was laying in a hospital bed with massive injuries. Now he was on pole position for the greatest spectacle in motor racing. Although he didn't win the race in the end, his pole position symbolized something far greater: the incredible possibilities of the human spirit. James Hinchcliffe's story reminds us that setbacks, no matter how daunting, can turn into an even greater comeback. And actually, this accident opened the door to another special comeback story for James. After the crash, his high school prom date Rebecca Dalton, an actress from Canada, reached out to him to check in how he was doing. They hadn't heard from each other in years at that time, but now they are actually happily married since 2019.